Hey there guys, how's it going? My name is Mittens and welcome to what is the first in a new series of videos that I'm going to be making dedicated to the lore of Warcraft and the franchise. Why am I doing this, you might ask? Well, mainly because the new expansion that's coming out, Warlords of Draenor, is featuring a lot of characters that are very important to the Warcraft universe and a lot of locations which are very important. And for players who are returning to the game and also new players who might just be starting it for the first time or started in Miss Pandaria, I think it's a good chance to recap on some of that important lore. So without further ado, I'm going to launch into this series. I hope you enjoy it. Like, favourite, subscribe if you do, and leave a comment telling me what you'd like done next. So here's the first episode of the Lore of Warcraft, Grommash Hellscream. In the dark recesses of Ashenvale in Demonfall Canyon, there lies a monument amongst the devastation. It reads thusly: "Here lies Grommash Hellscream, chieftain of the Warsong clan. In many ways the curse of our people began and ended with Grom. His name meant giant's heart in our ancient tongue. He earned that name 100-fold as he stood alone against the demon Manaroth and won our freedom with his blood. Loktar Ogar, big brother. May the war song never fade." It was written by Thrall himself, but the legacy of Grommash Hellscream did not end in Demonfall Canyon, for it continues in the very heart of Orcish society, and arguably was in part responsible for the rise and fall of his son, Garrosh Hellscream, who possessed the same courage, ferocity, and unshakable pride that proved to be the downfall of both father and son. But when Grom's story first began, he could never have known how far-reaching the results of his actions would be. His story ended in Ashenvale, but it began far away, and not on Azeroth. Prior to the construction of the Dark Portal, Grom was already the leader of the fearsome Warsong clan of Orcs upon their racial homeworld of Draenor. The story of his time as chief of that clan before the formation of the Horde is unclear. However, it is known that he was one of the first to heed Ner'zhul's warnings about the old enemy of the Orcs, the Draenei, and supported the prospect of war against them. It was at this point, through the unseen machinations and cunning schemes of the warlock Gul'dan, that Grom, along with almost all the other Orcs of the many clans, was lured into drinking the blood of the Pit Lord Manaroth, enticed by the promise of power and glory that it would bring. Little did he know at this time the price they would pay in return. When war did come, Grom led the invasion against Shattrath City himself, described as fiery-eyed orc wielding a massive two-handed axe, and he succeeded in taking the city, at the price of the lives of innumerable Draenei, including women and children. It is unclear whether or not Grom himself took part in the slaughter of innocents, though it seems highly likely, for he led the assault and the orcs who committed the massacre were under his command. It should be noted, however, that this occurred after they had drunk the blood of Manaroth, and therefore had little control over their bloodlust. What followed the conquest of Draenor was a relatively inactive period for Grommash and the Warsong, for Gul'dan manipulated them into staying behind on Draenor. Ironically, this attempt to sideline Grom and his clan saved them from the humiliation of the Horde's defeat in the Second War, and left Grom with a far more military might than many of the other clans who had been weakened during the fighting. After the war, Ner'zhul, who had by now recovered a portion of his previous strength, used the Warsong clan to strike out in hit-and-run raids, recovering Azerothian artifacts of great power alongside the Bleeding Hollow clan and the Kilrog Deadeye. They were highly effective, and gave Ner'zhul the items he needed to plan his future for himself and a defeated, but not destroyed, Horde. However, whatever fate Ner'zhul had planned was not to be shared with the Warsong clan, who, when the Dark Portal was finally destroyed, ending the Second War, found themselves trapped on the wrong side. What followed was a period of unquestionable hardship and suffering for the Warsong clan, trying to survive in the wilds of Lordaeron. For nearly 15 years they were forced to fight the humans that hunted them, as well as the blood curse that claimed many of the orcs, and not Grom, however, who fought against the madness till the end of his days. The number of free orcs began to diminish, and survivors gave in to the curse or died of disease or to the blades of their enemies. Hope seemed lost, and then Grom came across a young orc who gave him hope for the future. His name was Thrall. The two learned much from each other, with Thrall inspiring Grom through his strength, courage and mercy. Grom in return taught Thrall much of the ways of Orcish culture and their shared history. The two became firm friends. Eventually this friendship led Grom to be reunited with Orgrim Doomhammer and Thrall's own clan, the Frostwolves, and together they began to strike out at the human internment camps throughout Lordaeron, freeing as many orcs as they could, and restoring a measure of pride to their people's honour. In time, with the death of Doomhammer, Thrall became the new war chief of the Orcish Horde, which was growing in strength after their successes of the attacks on the internment camps and the encouragement this gave to others. Thrall believed that the orcs were destined to sail westward to Kalimdor, and Grom, loyal to his friend, took the warsong with him. However, tragically, this period of hope and promise for the future would be short-lived, as Grommash once again felt the dark hold of the demonic curse creeping over him again. He began to disobey Thrall's orders, attacking settlements in the Stone Talon mountain range without authorization. As a result, and in an attempt to help Grom suffer through the surge of demonic influence without any further incident, Thrall decided to give the Warsong clan the simple, if not martial task, of gathering and harvesting lumber from the surrounding forests in order to set about building the new Orcish settlement. However, this was a grave mistake. The forests in question, which Thrall had sent the Warsong to harvest from, were vast and rich, and whilst the orcs did not know it at the time, that land had been given a name by its native inhabitants. Ashenvale, ancient and sacred territory of the Kaldorei. The Night Elves are fiercely protective of their forest homelands even by modern standards, and in the days of the orcs' first arrival, they were far more unwelcoming towards strangers. As expected, the outrage of the elves at the destruction caused by the Warsong clan, coupled with the rising fury and frustration of the orcs under Grom's command, suffering now not only from the raging fire of the demonic curse within them, but also with the humiliation of being sent to labour like peons, produced instant violence. The Kaldorei attacked the orcs. However, Hellscream was able to beat off their attacks and continue to destroy the forest, until his actions caught the attention of the demigod Cenarius. Convinced that the orcs were demon-spawned wretches and enemies of Azeroth, he set about destroying the Warsong where he found them, and to Grom's alarm, seemed invulnerable to the attacks of his warriors. It was at this point that Grom was once again tempted into unwittingly serving the Burning Legion. Through the visions of one of the troll witch doctors aiding him, Grom was alerted to the presence of a source of great magical power nearby to where they had made their camp. This was welcome news to Hellscream, who was desperate to avoid the annihilation of his clan at the hands of Cenarius. What Grom didn't know until it was too late was that this power source was in fact the blood of the Pit Lord Manoroth, bane of the Orcish race. The great demon had seen a cunning opportunity to not only bind the orcs to his cause once more, but also to rid himself of Cenarius, who had proven to be a powerful enemy of the Legion during the War of the Ancients. Grom, unwilling to see his clan destroyed when they had come so far, and unable to resist the lure of the blood which was so close, drank for a second time, and instructed his warriors to do the same. Driven by the rage and immense power of the demonic blood, Grom's forces fell upon the demigod and his followers, slaughtering them all. Even Cenarius himself was no match for the fury of the blood-fueled Hellscream. It was not long afterwards that Manoroth revealed himself to the chieftain, mocking him with the knowledge that now, as before, the Warsong were under the sway of the Legion. This horrified Grom, but that was perhaps its last independent thought, before Manoroth exercised his control over the clan, and sent them into battle, not just against the humans under Jaina Proudmoore, but also their Orcish kinsmen. Thrall, determined to save his friend, eventually fought his way to Grom and confronted him, only for the chieftain to reveal the dark secret of their race, that they had willingly drunk the blood of Manoroth all those years before, on Draenor. That they were not cursed, but doomed by their own mistakes. Mistakes that Grom had made once again in Ashenvale. With the help of his allies, Jaina Proudmoore and Cairn Bloodhoof of the Tauren, Thrall was able to capture Grom and subdue him, whilst Jaina attempted to remove the curse. However, she was only able to temporarily stave off the bloodlust. Emboldened and filled with righteous fury after Grom's explanation of the orc's misfortune, Thrall was determined to hunt down Manaroth and claim vengeance not just for his friend, but for their entire race. Grom, temporarily freed from the curse, also saw it as his duty to put an end to the demon who had corrupted his people. They tracked the Pit Lord to Demonfall Canyon, staggered by the darkness which gripped the land, for the demonic presence had twisted the once lush forests into a barren, desolate wasteland, filled with fire and choking fumes. Manaroth revealed himself to the pair, mocking their predictability, which caused Thrall to bellow with rage, hurling Doomhammer at the demon, but Manaroth shrugged off the attack contemptuously and swatted the Warchief aside. Facing the Pit Lord alone, Grom listened as Manaroth told him that they were the same. But Grom was not as predictable as the demon had thought. He charged the Pit Lord with the fury of the war song in his veins, bringing Gorehowl screaming down from above. Manaroth brought up his twin-bladed glaive to parry the blow, but with a crack like roaring thunder, the great axe split the demon's weapon in two, hurtled down, and embedded itself in the Pit Lord's black heart, slicing through his breastplate. With a bellow of rage and agony, Manaroth reeled back and exploded in an inferno of fell flames. Grom weathered the blast alone, taking its full fury, and when it was done, Manaroth the Destructor, bane of the Orcish race, was destroyed. Awakening from his stupor and finding their ancient enemy slain, Thrall staggered over to where Hellscream lay, mortally wounded from the deadly explosion. The demon fire had faded from his eyes, the blood curse had been lifted. As he died, Grommash Hellscream's last words to his friend and Warchief were, "I have freed myself." Thrall knew that Grom had freed them all, for with his sacrifice, the dark shadow which had haunted the Orcs ever since they drank the blood of the demon all those years ago on Draenor had been lifted. Grom fell at the sight of his greatest triumph, not only over the ancient enemy of his people, but also over the darkness in his own soul. There is debate as to whether Hellscream should hold such high honour as he does in Orcish culture and that of the Horde at large, for he committed many sins, and drank the blood of Manaroth twice of his own free will. But through it all he fought against the darkness within him, fought to protect the honour of his people, and ensure their safety. In the end, he faced his demon, and destroyed it utterly. And after all, isn't that what makes a true hero?